Zach Rehl, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Take me back to that day where the incident occurred and President Trump is speaking. From that point, were you in the crowd when he was speaking?
Honestly, we actually weren't in the crowd when, at least the guys that I was with, we were marching around the city because that's what we do. We go to these protests and usually we do like a march and everything. And at the time when he was giving his speech, we were in the middle of a march. And
when you say we, you mean the Philadelphia Proud Boys?
Well, Proud Boys throughout the country. So a lot of us came down just to, it was, a big protest. President Trump was asking a lot of supporters to come out. So, we were in the protesting at the time, and we decided it'd probably be a good protest to go to. And I figured it was probably gonna be one of the last, so a lot of us wouldn't want to miss it. And like that was just any other protest basically. So, so we're marching around the city, and at some point when we're ready to head back, we hear that he was looking to send everybody down to the Capitol to protest. And at that point, we decided we were going to make a U-turn. Instead of going back to the ellipse where he was giving his speech, that we would start heading towards the Capitol. And that's where we collided with the big Trump crowd that was coming from the ellipse, and pretty much just met head on with them. And yeah, so at that point,
take me there. Take me to that point where the crowds meet. Mm-hmm. The atmosphere, what was going through your head, and what the plan was. Was there a plan?
There really wasn't a plan. And the government went through 1.5 million messages between me, my co-defendants, and we were involved in a lot of chats, Telegram chats and everything, and not one message said anything about going to the Capitol and doing anything. And like I said, at this point, going to the Capitol was a completely, what's the word?
Ad-libbed.
Yeah, it's just out of the blue. We didn't know it was going to happen. We thought there was going to be the speech at the ellipse, and we thought that was going to be it. But we ended up going there because President Trump wanted to give a speech at the Capitol too. He even said it in his speech, and that's why people went there as well. So they wanted to protest Congress, and they also wanted to hear President Trump speak. So at that point, we collided with the crowd, and there's a couple bike racks up right on the Capitol grounds. The Capitol grounds are huge. It's like multiple acres, and people wanted to go up this walkway, and up this walkway, at the end of the walkway was the inauguration stage. So to people who've never been to DC before, we're thinking, well, President Trump just said he's going to go to the Capitol and give a speech. Here's this speech here's this stage being constructed. It was being constructed for the inauguration for President Biden at the time. So we didn't know that. So people are excited. They want to get there first, and people are trying to pressure. I guess you could say pressure the cops to let us go by.
No, what do you mean by that? What do you mean pressure the cops?
People are like, let us go. We're allowed to be here. We're allowed to go on the.
Was there any violence at that point?
I don't think there was any violence that I know of. Really, that's up for debate. The prosecutors would try to say that shaking a barrier is violent, but that's not violent. If somebody wants to go past a bike rack, that's not violent. And ultimately, the police allowed people to go up. They turned around and went the opposite way, and that's when people decided that they were going to move the barriers out of the way completely and go onto the Capitol grounds. At that point, everybody ran to the inauguration stage. That's where everybody ran to. And we all stood there for about 20, 30 minutes. Stood literally at the inauguration stage area for 20, 30 minutes. And at some point, the Capitol Police were given an order to move the crowd back. I guess people were too close to the inauguration stage. They didn't like it. But to that point, there's probably thousands of people that amassed at this point. So it's next to impossible to be able to just move a crowd back however many feet. So they were given the order to, or at least the authorization to use non-lethal force, and they used it. So they're shooting pepper balls and all sorts of mace, OC spray, and that kind of agitated the crowd because the crowd was just standing around. We're standing around waiting for President Trump to show up at the stage that we're all standing at. And that's really where things hit the fan. So people didn't have anywhere to go. They're being maced by cops. Some people had stuff on them. I guess some people retaliated.
What do you mean stuff?
That's where videos you might have seen where people might have been using whatever they had on them, maybe a stick or this or that or whatever. We've seen all the videos. People did do things back towards the police, but a lot of people don't realize that it was in self-defense and retaliation of being assaulted by the cops first.
Or the alternative would have been to pull back.
They could have, but like I said, it's you can't really move anywhere, and when you don't have anywhere to move, some of these people felt like they didn't have anywhere to go, and they were trying to defend themselves. They didn't know what was going on. People were just standing there peacefully, waiting for the president to show up, and it was.
So at that point, it hits the fan. The accusation against you reads that you used a chemical irritant against an officer. Bridge the gap of when that happened. Is that?
I didn't use anything against any police officers. I didn't do anything against police officers.
So where did that come from?
I don't know. I wasn't even charged with anything related to assaults. In fact, I was actually acquitted of any assaults. So how did it get to the point where you were one of the people who was accused of among the highest crimes and sentenced to 15 years? Like, where did that all come from? I think that was mostly, and I think that was all politics. President Trump speaks a lot about the weaponization of the Justice Department, and we were the biggest organization. The Proud Boys were the biggest organization politically at the time, and they were trying to make this narrative that the whole January 6th was planned somehow, and it wasn't planned. But they wanted to prove somehow that President Trump gave these crazy orders to his supporters or these organizations, and that we were somehow tied to each other, and we weren't. Like, couldn't be further from the truth.
Did you ever enter the Capitol yourself?
At one point, about 45 minutes after people already started pouring into the building, after cops were already letting people in, I went in. I went in for 20 minutes, I walked around, took some pictures, and I left. Literally exactly 20 minutes. And didn't break anything in there, I didn't assault nobody in there. Literally just acted pretty much like a tourist while I was in there for the most part.
So your contention is that it's false, that the claim that you tried or used some kind of chemical irritant against the cops, and when you were inside, you didn't steal, break, or do anything?
I didn't assault anybody, and I didn't steal, break, or anything inside that building.
And all you did was take photographs?
All I did was take photographs. I did smoke a cigarette while I was in there. There was a group of people smoking cigarettes in some room. I didn't know what kind of room it was. I just thought it was a break room of some sort. So that's probably the worst thing I did in there. And I apologize for that. I kind of felt wrong about it afterwards. But at the time, I was caught up in the moment. There's a bunch of other people smoking cigarettes in this room, and I smoked one too. But I quit smoking. So.
Take me through the whole thing where you were angry at the results of the election. The January 6th thing happens. You go to court, and on your sentencing, you were emotional. And one of the things you said was politicians started spreading lies about the election, and I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And now here we are talking inside your home. Walk me through the evolution of what's going through your mind over that time period.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say I was angry at the results of the election. I was disappointed. I really was. Prior to the election, I had my doubts about whether or not he was able to win again. I thought he was going to win. I thought it was going to be easy for him to win. But I stated if anything good can happen with this election season, that he would need to appoint that third Supreme Court justice. I said that was more important than the presidential election at that point. And I still stand by that. It was. But after that, when he lost, it was shocking. It was. I was shocked about it. I did believe that there was a lot of shady things going on with the mail-in ballots and whatnot. And I still believe to some extent that there was some shadiness with some of those mail-in ballots. To what extent, I don't know. But again, there was a lot of protests that were going on. People wanted to demand the transparency with some of the swing states. Basically just wanted to see if there was legitimate fraud. So one of the things being tossed around at the time was people wanted to have a forensic audit of the elections in each swing state. So at that point, a forensic audit would have been verifying signatures, the names, making sure that voter rolls are accurate, and 50 people weren't voting in one household, for example. You know, that's people just wanted transparency. And if there was, no, it would have probably calmed a lot of people's, I guess, anxiety about the election. So
when you look at what's happened over the past several years, and you're saying that you were not involved in anything violent at January 6th, that's your contention about your involvement. But when you look at some of the violent behavior, and I'm not talking about people who were pretty much just trespassing, the people who were involved in violent behavior on January 6th. One, did you see that? And now looking back, do you ever have a moment where you just kind of say to yourself, what the hell was I doing? You know, why was I even there? I mean, does that ever cross your mind?
I mean, after you get arrested and denied bail and sentenced to 15 years in federal prison, you have those kind of thoughts like, wow, maybe I shouldn't have went down there. I mean, but honestly, at the end, when I left down there, I never thought I would have spent even a weekend in jail for anything that I did or didn't do down there that day. Like I said, we didn't have any plans to do anything at that Capitol that day. And I've been to a lot of protests. I was at probably about 30 of them in the year 2020 alone. We all know that there was a lot of political tensions in the year 2020. We had the COVID protests, we had the BLM protests, and you know, then there was the election protest. So there was a lot of things to protest in 2020. So January 6th, to me, was just another protest, you know, and I didn't expect anything to go down like that when I was there, when I was going there. But when I was there, some of the things were, it was like, wow, this, you know, kind of crazy. So, you know, that things got out of hand a little bit. But on the ground, when you're a person on the ground and you're just in a giant crowd, there's no way for you to see every single thing that's going on. Later, when you see videos, you know, it's easy to say, oh, well, he was there, so he had to have seen all these videos of all these people doing this and that. That's insanity. There's no way. I mean, I'm 5'11", not 8 feet tall. I can't see over everybody's heads. You know, I can't see what's going on 20, 30, 40 feet ahead of me. So if somebody's doing something violent to a cop, or a cop's doing something violent to a protester, I may see it, I may not. I'm not going to see everything. But, you know, like I said, I mean, things happen at protests sometimes. Things get out of hand from time to time. And the way I looked at it at the time, I didn't see everything. So I just thought that that was just one of those things. It wasn't as bad as it came out to be.
There were approximately 1,500 people who went through the legal system with this whole thing. Mm-hmm. You were among the few whose sentence was commuted, not pardoned.
Correct.
How do you square that with what you're saying? If you're saying that you weren't involved in anything violent, how do you square the fact that you were among the few whose sentence was not pardoned but just commuted?
Well, that's time's going to answer that question. But President Trump did say at the time when he signed the pardons that he's probably or likely, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, to change those to a pardon. I believe he probably just wants to look more into it. He did say prior to signing these orders that he was going to have a case-by-case with some instances and whatnot. So I believe since this is the most serious case, maybe he didn't want to be too controversial on his first day in a sense, and he just wants to look a little bit more into it. So that's how I'm going to take it until things change.
And because your sentence was commuted, the charges against you, the conviction still stands. That's had an effect on you and your family.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the things that had a big effect is I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I was receiving disability benefits from the VA, and during my whole process of going through trial and whatnot, I was basically stripped of all my benefits, and not just stripped of them, they cut them off prior to I was even convicted. So after that, after I was convicted, they sued my wife for any benefits I received from January 6th on. So they actually had sent a $90,000 bill to my wife and wanted immediate payment. And
what became of that?
Well, I actually had a supporter who was kind enough to help pay that off for me, so that way they wouldn't come take my house and basically send my kids out on the street. But it still didn't work. It worked out. It didn't work out. It was very kind of the person to do that, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But we still have some uphill battles to do with the VA and trying to get my benefits back, which I earned. I should have never been stripped from them in the first place.
This morning, I'm not sure if you saw this, but ABC News reporting that the district attorney in Philadelphia is exploring, the words used in the report, exploring the possibility of filing state charges for some people who took part in J6. What's your reaction to that?
That's insanity, really. I mean, I thoroughly looked into that myself. I hope that's not true, but if it is, I mean, I would ask Mr. Krasner to really think that one through, because I already went through the legal process on that. I'm going through the legal process on that. We have a lot of problems in Philadelphia, and I think we need to worry about what's going on in Philadelphia and not what's going on in DC.
So when you look back on that day, what was the end game from your perspective? And with that said, any regrets?
Well, the end game was to hopefully get Congress to look into the allegations of fraud. That's what people were down there for. That's why President Trump wanted us to go to the Capitol and protest. And they were doing that. They were starting to investigate when things, I think when people first entered the building, they were objecting to Arizona at the time. And it's a complicated process on January 6th, but when the Congress people object to a state, then they start looking into what the allegations are about that state and whatnot. And they were literally doing their job at the time. So the riot that broke out disrupted that, and it actually ruined what we were hoping would happen. So January 6th was not, well, the violence that happened was not our goal, and it actually ruined what we were hoping would happen.
Which was what?
Hoping for Congress to look into the allegations of fraud. Correct.
Final question. Who is Zach Rehl?
Who am I? I mean, I'm a father. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. A caring individual, a family man, and you know, I just a regular man, really. I mean, I'm hoping to get my life back together. It's been a rough 4 years. I went through a lot in prison, but you know, I took that time.
I'm glad you said that, because I lied. One more question. What was it like in prison? Tell me about that experience.
It was interesting. Honestly, the people there were, you know, I met a lot of interesting people, a lot of broken people. People treated me really well, but a lot of people were hoping that, you know, the notoriety and infamousness of my case, that I could shed some light on the Justice Department and some of the struggles that a lot of people went through in the justice system, and hopefully I can actually hopefully fix some of the things that are wrong with the system. And it is something I would like to do. It really is. When I left, it was very, very, not really, I would say emotional, but people were really happy for me. And the entire place that I left, it was a big block of 100 men. Everyone was celebrating when they heard I got the pardon, and I think that's a nod to my character. When a lot of people leave, you know, nobody really cares. But when I left, everyone was very genuinely happy for me, and it touched my heart. It really did, and I hope to be able to help some of these guys and give back in some way to them.
Okay, and these are the last two questions. Okay. Are you still involved with the Proud Boys locally, and what is next for you in terms of your career, your life?
I haven't been involved with the Proud Boys. I have some friends that I speak to. I mean, I guess you could say loosely talk to some people, but I haven't been involved actively with the organization since my arrest. I don't have any problems with the organization, obviously. It's a men's fraternity at the end of the day. But as far as what I'm looking into next, I'm definitely looking into some options. I'm hoping to weigh some opportunities that may be arising. I do have my eyes on maybe, like I said, maybe getting involved with the justice system and helping shed some light and try and do some good with the community or whatever. And if not, maybe I can try and get back into some of my financial career that I was involved in prior. But like I said, time will tell. I just got out, so I'm trying to piece together my life a little bit, and hopefully I can do that sooner rather than later.
All right, Zach Rehl, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.